Welcome to NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast series, where we focus on how financial advisors work, live, and give to their local communities and our greater financial services industry. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hi, everyone. This is Chris Gandy, your co-host for Advisors Today podcast, where we feature the top leaders in insurance and financial services. I'm here with one of my wonderful co-hosts, Suzanne Caruana. Hi, Suzanne.
Hey, Chris. Great to be here.
Thank you for being here. Today, we've got wonderful guests, and we'll introduce them in a minute. But just to recap on what this podcast is predominantly based on, our past guests have been gentlemen like Ike Trotter, Joe Templin, Brian Ash, and Brian Holtz. And you can watch and listen to those podcasts on demand at our archive online on your favorite podcast channel by visiting NAIFA.org. Please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single superstar. With that being said, Suzanne, do we have a sponsor for today?
We sure do, Chris. Today's episode of Advisor Today is brought to you by Illinois Mutual. And for NAIFA members, you should have seen a recent email in your inbox outlining how Illinois Mutual's disability income insurance coverage has actually been expanded to cover even more occupations, such as bartenders, photographers, and social media influencers. So if you're looking for a product and you thought, those gig economy of workers, those entrepreneurs, we can't find them a DI product, well, you can look no further than Illinois Mutual because they can hook you up with that. So Illinois Mutual is helping more Main Street Americans get the income protection they need. If you want more information, contact sales@illinoismutual.com and mention you heard about this innovative DI product on today's podcast. Back to you, Chris.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Now we get a chance to meet our wonderful guests. But before doing so, we want to thank Carol Golden for introducing us to our guests today. Our guests today are Martha Underwood and Shella Sylla. Don't want to mess her name up. I was corrected earlier. Who has taken on providing solutions for individuals to use and for advisors to better understand end-of-life issues. Martha and Shella are sisters. Martha comes from the banking software background, and Shella comes from the banking real estate background. Shella also started a company called SisterGolf. With no further ado, let's welcome, round of applause for our guests, for Martha and Shella. Welcome, ladies.
We're happy to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. We're on the precipice of having what I would call new personalities and new faces on the podcast, and many of the NAIFA members may not know who you are. So, question: I mentioned end of life care. So, one, what got you started on that business, and two, why is end of life care so important?
So sure. What got us started was our parents, right? So our parents are 82 and 83 now. Back in 2017, when Hurricane Irma hit Florida, my dad thought it was a good idea to help his neighbors cut a tree off their roof, and he fell off of the roof and went unconscious. And there's always one person, or two people in this case, that a family member calls, and that's myself and Shella. We were called. My mom was frantic. We live in Birmingham, Alabama. They live in Miami, Florida. I know that my dad does not take blood. I know that he has issues with anesthesia, and he was unconscious. And so I said, I couldn't get there. So how do I get access to his information? What if the worst happened? What if he passed? Do I have access to his life insurance policy? Do I know where the will is? Do I know where any of this information is? And I said, no, I didn't. And because I'm a techie and I've been in technology over 25 years, I created a solution so that I can access their information anywhere.
And so let me ask a question. That's how you got started.
Yeah.
So give us, for those who, we're advisors, and we're talking about wealth accumulation and wealth preservation and asset protection and insurance, insurance structures and life insurance. But why is end of life care so specific? Because it's a little different, right? It's people aren't gone or no longer with us, but their quality of life is super important. So share with us a little bit, give us some ideas of why end-of-life care is so pertinent, and then ultimately why we need to pay attention to it.
Well, we feel like it's very important because when something happens unexpectedly, a lot of times you're so engulfed in the grief that you don't have the frame of mind to really sort of, cultivate or think of where are those important documents stored, and where can we put our hands on it, and what was those person's wishes. And after they're gone, it's too late, or if they're incapacitated, or if they're not in a position to give you direction, you needed to kind of know that ahead of time. So taking care of the business of it ahead of time is critically important. And so many people don't think about that. And specifically in our situation, because we are remote, like Martha said, neither one of us had the capability to necessarily fly down to Miami and, be hands-on. While we did have siblings there, like she said, being the point person, even if those documents were already handled, or we had a system in place, they could have been in a safe deposit box. But who has that extra key to the safe deposit box, and who has instruction and access to go ahead and get those documents when they were needed? So and most people don't think about that. And when it comes to financial advisors, it's important because a lot of financial advisors are now looking at life planning. Financial advisors are there to help you grow your wealth. And I know for me, one of the things we asked my mom was like, okay, where's the money? Who's the financial advisor? Do they have access to some of this information? And typically they don't. I know mine didn't. And so this was critical for me to say, you know what, I need to close the gap here, because I know for my sons, they're going to need to be able to contact my financial advisor to see where the dollars are, where the wealth that I've grown, that goes over to them, but then other accounts. And that's the beauty of Prism, is because we allow you to invite financial advisors to the account, so that they can see everything too. They can see your documents, they can see your real estate assets, they can see where your day-to-day financial bank accounts are. Because I know, like, again, with me, I had my investment accounts, but my financial advisor didn't necessarily see like my day-to-day. And so because I had several different other bank accounts. So now that centralizes it, I give that to them. And now they have a holistic view of what's there and what needs to be passed on to my heirs. And what that really boils down to, too, Chris, is consent, because you want to give the consent before it's too late. Mm-hmm. So once you have established that and put that in place, then now you have consent to have access to those critical documents.
Got it. So I'm just going to use my situation for example. So I have a durable power of attorney for health and financial reasons, and I have a trust, and I have a son who's 22. Everybody knows, I'm not leaving significant wealth to my son at 22. He may not know how to act, right? I mean, I'm just my kid. Maybe it's just me, right? So my point in saying that is that there's a place where your platform allows for us to see holistically all the documents, all the stuff, right, in one place. So we don't have to go, like you said, hunting down and looking for where everything's buried, or, if mom has, an account back, from 20 years ago, she doesn't even know, she knows there's money in there, but she's never going to take money out and don't know how to actually do, all the fun stuff that our parents don't teach us, and their intent is good, but their actions and their intent aren't necessarily aligned, right? And so your platform allows for that alignment to happen.
That's exactly it. 'Cause I like to say we're doing all the right things. We have our 401ks, we have our life insurance policy, we may have a will, but we're missing that last step of letting people know where it is.
Right.
And so one of the challenges I know with my parents and sometimes with boomers and older folks is they value their privacy. They're like, you're going to have access to all of this information. I don't want you to see this. Right. I don't want you to ask me for a loan, right? And so, in thinking of that, when we built this, we built in privacy. So you can allow, you can pretty much say, I want this person to see this now, or I don't want them to see anything until I transition life. We have a transition or triggering button in the platform that says if something happened to the subscriber, I click it. Now I can see everything. If the subscriber said, I don't want you to see anything. So we preserve that. We preserve that privacy.
Anonymity is super important. Talk to me about the business itself. You guys started the business, Sisters. So what are some of the great things about being in business as a siblings, right? And what are some of the let's call it obstacles or challenges with being in it? I know you two are sitting next to each other, so let me ask that, because naturally I would like to go in business with my family, right? My son, my brother, my sister, if possible. What did you guys do to say, you know what, we're going to build this? Well, let me start with the first question is, as sisters, how has being in business with each other been?
I'll start. The good thing about it is because we're sisters and we know each other so well, when challenges arise or, emotions are high or there might be differences, we don't take it personally. So Martha just goes, okay, Shella's just cranky. I'm just gonna, I'm not even gonna let that bother me. And we'll just get right back to the business of things. We don't take anything personally. Our goals are aligned. We know that we want to end up in the same place. And at the end of the day, we are hug it out and we're done and we keep going. And so there is no animosity. I mean, we have differences, we bump heads, but we brush it off and we can keep going because we understand each other's personality. And we have we think a lot of in the same way on a lot of things, but we also bring fresh new perspectives. And she knows that because I'm her sister, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to always give her the real. So she knows that she can come to me, and even if it's not what she wants to hear, she can receive it from me because she knows that it's coming from a genuine place.
Sure.
What a time saver, actually. That's a really good point, right? You can cut through a lot of time of sensitivity. Just give it, just rip the Band-Aid and
yes.
Bottom line it. Yep.
The facts.
Facts, yeah.
So let's rewind the tape. Milestones. The two of you are in business together now. What's your biggest milestones for yourself and your company? As you look back, what are some of the milestones or the biggest accomplishments that you guys would say that you've done so far?
So a couple of milestones. One, we have signed an enterprise level client, which is a local financial advising firm here that we're onboarding right now. Another milestone is we're about to integrate into the tax records to be able to pull that information in. So real estate assets, we'll be able to automatically pull that in. And then another milestone is we just partnered with Dr. Malik Yoba, award-winning actor, to help amplify this because he has a personal connection to this since his mother passed of dementia and he experienced this problem firsthand. And so we just announced that, and that's the third milestone. So I think we're just pressing forward. We're looking forward to building the app that should be out later this year, because right now you can access it on your phone through our Progressive website, but it's not a native app. So we'll be launching that. And so those are the top milestones that we're very excited about.
So was there in the largest jobs, everybody goes through like challenges when running a business, and as you kind of look back, what's the hardest thing that the two of you had to overcome with the business itself?
The hardest thing for me is the selling piece, because again, I'm a tech executive. I've been on the tech side and I've done that, but jumping and saying, I am going to leave corporate America and focus on building this business is honing in on my sales skill set. Doing it for yourself as a business owner is very different from doing it in a big corporation where you have all of the support needed. So I think that was the biggest challenge is really learning what my message is, crafting that message, and then deploying it and being out there and setting up my meetings, pipeline of business and going out there and talking to folks. I think for me, that was my biggest challenge.
I think that's where we complement each other best, because from my banking experience, I've kind of always been on that sales side. And so the tech side has been more challenging for me. So her background is in tech banking, and my background is more on operations and sales banking. So so where she falls short, I can sort of fill in the gaps and vice versa.
Well, and the good thing is both of you just joined NAIFA, so you're true members now, and you have 20,000 other brothers and sisters out there who are ready to help you at any time with any sales techniques, prospecting, because
fantastic. We're
they
excited.
are the experts.
Well, welcome to NAIFA. We are an inclusive organization that really is really proud of our efforts to, we are on the, so I'll mention that everybody knows that we are playing this during Black History Month. So we're super excited about having diverse professionals, specifically minority and African-American business owners as women. I mean, you guys are the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. I mean, we've checked a lot of boxes, Suzanne, with these star guests. So let's ask some questions specifically as we talk about careers. Mentors. How important is mentors in the world of business, right? From your perspective, what are some of the experiences the two of you have had with mentors?
Man, it's so critical to have a mentor. So I started my career with IBM right out of college, and I was fortunate to have my first manager be my mentor. And he was able to highlight the pitfalls before I stepped into them. Mm-hmm. And then the other benefit is having Shella go before me and be my mentor, because there are times when I might be sitting in a tech meeting. And again, being a Black woman in tech, I'm typically the only one in the room with a whole bunch of men. And I might serve up my idea about a product or a feature, and it gets back down and someone else says it and it gets adopted. And I'm sitting there frustrated and wanting to cry. And I walk out and I call Shella, and she talks me through it and mentors me through it, because she's been in commercial banking and she's been there before. That's what my first manager was able to do for me. And that's what Shella was able to do for me. So it's like they guide you through some of the difficult times in your corporate career. That gives you the energy to keep going and not give up and say, hey, this is just too hard. And that was the beauty of having Shella, and having the beauty of having my first manager, Dale. And it's critical to be mentored. So I give back as a mentor myself.
Okay.
Same. I agree with her. Mentorship is super important. I was fortunate enough that when I was coming up in banking, that I was able to be a part of an organization called National Association of Urban Bankers. That association no longer exists, or they've taken on a new name and gone in a new direction. But being in corporate America, specifically corporate banking, very heavily male dominated in Miami, Florida, no one else that looks like me in the leadership roles that I was in. I didn't have a Joe Jackson that I can call on and say, can you mentor me? So that organization was pivotal and critical for me to lean on, because in that organization were other people that looked like me that had climbed the ladder in banking and had had various roles that I could reach out to, and they can give me guidance and direction. So having that was very helpful. And like Martha, I also give back by mentoring those that are coming after me.
Well, thank both of you for the mentoring, for giving back. You give back part of your money, your time, and your energy and your effort, right? And and the thing that we cannot forget is that you're giving back and you're leading others through the work that you're doing. You never know who's watching. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about daily rituals. I mean, on a day-to-day basis, tell me, so what are some of the things you do if there's young professionals out there that are trying to really find somebody, I want to be like them, share with us. They understand they got to fake it before they make. But what are some of the things that you do on a daily basis that are absolutes, whether you feel like it or not, right? What are some of the things that the two of you do to keep yourself not only on task and motivated, but also moving the business forward?
So I can start. One of the things I do is I work out. That gives me the energy in the morning. And I know Shella is going to say yes. Shella typically beats me to the gym, and I go to my trainer. She's there at 5. I get my 2 boys off to school because I think that that's important. And I'm there by 7. That it helps me focus because, one, I need to take care of myself first before I can take care of the business. The other thing that I do is I'm an avid learner. So I'm going to listen to a podcast to see if there's, anything out there. I like to listen to Lewis Howes. I like to listen to Tim Ferriss. Those are some of our top 2s that I'll listen to just get me motivated for the day. And then the next thing I'll do is I will check, my emails. I try to deal with a lot of the administrative things first, like responding to emails first before I schedule any of the meetings that I need. And so that just kind of frames my day on what tasks that I need to complete and then who do I need to speak to. That's kind of the ritual that I go into. I try to stop my day at around 3 because, again, for me, family is very important. That's when my boys get home from school. They get off the bus. We talk about their day. I spend time with them. I'm either at the football field or the baseball park. And then I might, spend time with my husband. And then I'll just kind of check in the evening, what's the next thing? But I think as business owners and entrepreneurs, sometimes we get so caught up in the business side. Even though we're building it for our family, we neglect our family. And so for me, I make sure that I don't neglect the family. And it took me some time to get there, but that's critical because you don't want to get to the mountaintop, so to speak, and then you have no one to share it with. So those are the things that, I definitely are non-negotiables for me.
Mm-hmm. Shella, I heard working out is your thing, and you beat her there. But what about you? I know you guys are in different places in your life. So what about you?
I'm similar with the morning routine. I'll start out with an early morning workout and sort of do listen to some sort of self-improvement like Martha, or do some reading in the morning before I actually get the day started. So I try to schedule my day. And as you mentioned, I also have a company called SisterGolf. So I'm also sort of planning those events. What we do is we teach women business professionals how to use golf as a way to network, get visibility, and access and proximity to decision makers so that they can move their careers forward or get more revenue for their respective businesses. So I'm usually working on scheduling the next half-day workshop for a business or scheduling the next one-on-one where I'm actually playing a round with a client and teaching them what it feels like to play in a company or charity scramble. And so after I get that sort of out of the way, I'm next really kind of looking at which meetings we can set up and who we can get in front of, since we are deep in the throes of fundraising mode now. So going through my network and trying to build and make those connections. And then at the end of the day, sort of, I have a checklist of different buckets that I want to hit. Okay, so did I do something from a health standpoint? Did I do something from a self-development standpoint? Did I do something personally? Did I do anything for the business? So if I hit like 3 out of 4, then did I win the day? So on the personal side, okay, did you call your mom today? Or did you check in with someone from a family standpoint? And not every day you're going to hit all of them, but the goal is to hit 80% of them, for the majority of the time. And then you do that from a week to week basis, from a month to month basis, and you look back over 12 months. And if you feel like you've done it pretty consistently for 80% of the time, then you end up with a pretty good year at the end of it all.
Yeah, one of my mentors, I'll share with you kind of a simple, something small. He said, become 1% better every day in every way. Right. So personally, professionally, and financially, like if you 1%, right, if you do that math, you're 1% better every day you put in time. And again, it's about progress, not perfection. Right. And I think we all seek that perfection, especially from advisors, but you have a captive audience, right? You have 30,000 members that are potential like-minded individuals that would like to see your business grow and can utilize your services, potential investors. So, make sure that you guys stay involved and make sure you're involved in a couple of the programs. I'm going to spin on, I'm going to talk a little personal stuff, but I want to spin on DEI. I'm the chair of NAIFA's DEI program. And, we're always looking for super guests and unique, what I would call progressive and thoughtful and purposeful individuals who are doing some of the right work on purpose. DEI for the two of you, what does it mean for you? And then from your perspective, how can the insurance and financial advisors encompass more DEI initiatives? Shella, we'll start with you this time.
Okay, so I feel like DEI is important because specifically in this industry, you don't see a whole lot of people that look like us. So it's important for us to get more advisors from the financial side in front of people that are Black and brown, and teach them the importance and how necessary it is for them to have some sort of financial plan or insurance plan. Because too many times, we see someone passes away and then now they're doing a GoFundMe, and they're caught unprepared, and they aren't taught the importance of putting these items in place before they're needed. So I think that it's really, and when that education is coming from someone that doesn't look like them, a lot of times our community feels like, okay, that's something that they do, and that's not something that we do. Mm-hmm. So if we have more people in place that look like us spreading that message and showing the importance of it, I think that will, in fact, take us a long way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same. I mean, DEI is critical. I do work in DEI, and I'm going to talk a little bit about a tech, but I'm going to come back to Shella. I chair this organization called Innovate Birmingham to ensure more Black and brown people are developers and engineers, to build that pipeline. I think it's about education. We start with education. I think that model works very well. And we get students from high school level interested in it. I think that's the same thing with the insurance and the financial planning space, is educating them first. Because a lot of people just don't know, like, what does a financial advisor do, right? And why should I be an insurance agent? As if they think about it from a car or, perspective, or a home, but from a life insurance term, like, how are these things important and why are they important to me? So I think it starts with education. And if as organizations create some of these cohorts or put out the information to them, then we can entice more Black and brown people to choose that as their careers, which will then help a lot more, from a community perspective, because now more people will be educated and say, I'm going to get a financial advisor that can guide me and help me build wealth that I can pass on to my heirs.
Well, there was a study done about the wealth gap about 10 years ago. Forbes talked about the wealth gap between cultures, and it was $10. It was $100 to every $5, right? And so there is a significant wealth divide from certain cultures. And so bridging that gap, being in the space where I'm hand-to-hand combat, dealing with what I would call the old folks, right? The old school folks, and trying to get them to understand the idea that we have to go back and re-educate, right? We have to go back and tear down some of the biases, right? And go down and re-educate, because we perhaps didn't learn wealth the way in which some of the other communities did. So we have to go back and we have to re-educate generations and be very intentional and be that catalyst of change. And if we go back, there's a difference between wealth creation and saving money. Right? And so if you think about that, saving money and having money, you can spend that. True wealth, you can never outlive. And so the idea of generational wealth and multi-generational wealth, how do you do that, has to go back to, we have to re-engineer the way potentially you learned it, depending on how you learned it. So you guys bring up a very good point. So when you were growing up, the two of you. Tell me your experience with insurance or financial advisory while you were growing up. Would you be comfortable sharing that?
Sure. So I will start, and I will say that we really didn't have a strong basis from that. A lot of my education actually came later in life. And, and I was fortunate enough to have a career in banking. And that was a huge eye opener. And that taught me so much about, planning for the future and, just something as simple as life insurance and the difference that makes when somebody passes, to be able to take advantage of the policy paying out and how that can significantly change someone's life. I know that my parents definitely tried to instill good habits in us in terms of managing money, but was there a 50-year plan or necessarily a legacy plan established or put in place? There was not. There was something that we had to learn as, we were growing up and matriculating up and understanding, more about finances. And it's something that's not, unfortunately, is not taught in schools. So we were almost self-taught that. I was fortunate enough to have my older sister who had, who really led us on the entrepreneurial journey. And she had her own business, and just seeing how she moved, and that sort of gave an example for me to follow. But outside of that, we, like most Black and brown people, did not have a strong foundation. We did not sit around a dinner table talking about what stocks we were going to invest in next, or that you can build a savings account inside of an insurance policy. Those conversations did not take place. Martha?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the nail. I think a lot of people think, so our parents, my dad was a serial entrepreneur too, which where my older sister got it, but he didn't talk about it much. We saw his work ethic. We saw him build businesses, but he didn't tell us, how to sustain it and how he can pass it on to us so that we can experience that generational wealth. It was, okay, go to school to make sure that you learned how we can keep, building the businesses so we can have a somewhat comfortable life. But it's critical to have those conversations. And like Shella, I did learn it, from a book standpoint after I went to college. And IBM had a program where they paid for us to have a financial advisor, which was awesome. And so I took advantage of that. And that's how I was able to learn more. And so I think the education piece and getting that education piece early is critical.
So what I hear you, both of you say is you guys were able to take experience, what you observed from your parents, right? The good things, not the bad things. Like our parents did a bunch of bad things too, right? Okay, got it. You were able to take from observation the good things, and then you were able to get an education, and now the application
Correct
magnifies the impact of what the two of you have done, which is phenomenal. I want to shift to Suzanne a little bit, because Suzanne's the marketing guru. I get paid to work here. I'm just kidding.
Big volunteer
how
salary.
have you guys integrated your DNA in the marketing, but doing that? So I'm gonna ask a hard question now. How do you do it without isolating other cultures? Because we talk about inclusion and opportunity, right? How do you do it so it applies to everyone, not just people that say, well, they're in Birmingham, Alabama, and they're minorities, so of course they're going to work with minorities. So how have you done that specifically on the marketing side? Now I'm going to spin it to Suzanne, since Suzanne is a marketing pro. Again, I don't know how to do that, but I'm sure she does. So what have you two done that specifically on the marketing side? Are you on TikTok? Are you on Instagram? Are you what are you doing to grow from a marketing perspective and include everyone into the platform?
So we are on LinkedIn, and I'm an active poster on LinkedIn. We are on Instagram, and I need to do better on Instagram. We are not on TikTok yet, but we will be. And so our messaging isn't a messaging just to Black and brown people, because it's not just a Black and brown problem.
Yeah.
It's everyone's problem. And I speak to it as to, if something happens to you right now, who can get to your stuff? It doesn't matter if I'm Black, brown, white, whatever, right? And then I also talk about it from a passing on wealth and educating them, because being in the bank, a lot of people don't know about escheatment, where if someone passed and the bank will call the beneficiary once or twice, but if people see a bank number calling, they're hesitant to ask, to answer it. The bank will put an ad out in a newspaper. No one's reading newspapers these days. That money will sit into account for 3 to 5 years, depending on what state you're in, and then it will go to the state.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen millions of dollars go to the state. And again, it's not just money, in my account or another culture's account, it's everyone. And so we don't want that to happen. So how do we help facilitate making sure that the right people get what they should get, based on what you worked so hard to build? And so our marketing message is more so, we all need this. We all need to be prepared, because none of us gets out alive, and later does not belong to any of us. We think that we'll get to it later, but it doesn't belong to us. And so that's how I kind of market it. And I love to, again, pick Suzanne's brain a little more, because she is the marketing guru on how we amplify that.
Well, for most marketing, right, you're either going to push a fear, right, or you're going to push like a perceived benefit, which is usually along the line of hope or optimism, right, for some better future life. And usually both of those, your solution is then providing that's the malady, and then you've got the solution for it in your product. But I think that what is interesting about money, and again, I come from, like we were talking earlier, I come from a software background. I'm years and years and years of marketing these intangible goods, which is hard to market. And money itself is not that hard to market, but it's the intangibles that go with the money rather. It's the behavioral finance pieces. And I think the piece and it's so interesting, because so many states now have financial literacy requirements in there for high school. So we are going to see this influx of people coming into the market that are a little bit more even keel about money, don't have so much emotion maybe wrapped up. But to Chris's point, we've got many, many generations that around money, you've got fear, shame, hiding, right? There's nothing positive there. And so those things, I think, that's a common DNA problem, regardless, right? That's there. And to me, that's a different part of the DEI equation, because it's you grew up with the fear, shame, hiding, right? Money is like a bad thing. It's not a neutral topic. And to me, it's like, how do we make money neutral? It's an instrument, right? And when you see the people that can flip into thinking about that, like somehow the two of you got the right training, the right education, you're so grounded, you're so confident with it. It's just a problem to solve, right? But so many people don't address money that way. And especially then you're talking end of life, right? There's how many consumers are so flippant, right? They do the whole when it's my time, just take me out back, right? You get all the little stuff that people say, oh, don't worry. But that's not the reality, right? And we were talking earlier, my father just passed mid-January, and we went through what I'm going to now call legal purgatory, where it wasn't clear. Right. And you're talking somebody who's it's all clear. Once you're dead, you're dead. It's clear. You get the death certificate, you have steps. But in that in-between time, which I think both of you are really trying to address, it's hard with the person if they're incapacitated or they're declining. It's super hard for the family. And in today's world where you don't have traditional families per se, especially if people are living into their, 80s, 90s. I mean, they might be on their fourth partner, right? And they've been with them for years, but they're not legally married. You've got all these different constructs of stuff. I think it's really important that you can come in and say, look, if you use this Prism product, right, you get the clarity. It's that peace of mind, which is kind of nebulous, but it's really important to say, what you don't want to do on top of losing somebody you love is then have more fear, shame, wonderment, right? Lack of clarity. It's like the last thing you need on top of it, right? Because it takes away from really going through that grief period. And then it just causes mayhem afterwards about how do you actually figure that out. And so to me, that's a conversation, Chris. And I know we do a lot of work at NAIFA in the long-term care space, in the kind of extended care planning, but all of that piece, when you talk about end of life, might not be a couple days, it might be 10 plus years. It could be more than that. And so how do we get our financial advisors comfortable with that conversation, comfortable with saying to their clients, let's get these solutions in place, right? Not because we're trying to knock you off, not because we're trying to get, your kids are trying to take your money and figure that out, but because it's good for like all around. And like, that's the good thing to do. And I think that's a shift, right? That's a shift that we're not comfortable as an American society, being a youthful society, talking about this. Other cultures are, right? Japanese culture, very different story. But we as a culture, as an American culture, the way that it's been defined to date, not a comfortable topic. So we got to figure out how do we take that piece to Main Street. And I think that's some of the work I know you have set out before you to do that. And we want to work with that. Because to your point, we're same thing. Millions of dollars are not being also, harnessed by people with life insurance policies, or people just don't know, right? Or they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
So I think those are some of the pieces on the marketing of getting our financial advisors to say, like, what are you waiting for? Like, this is such a turnkey, easy solution to take care of so many problems. And I think especially because you put the privacy mechanisms in there. So that to me, that's the big piece. Like, I know me as a parent, like I'm like Chris, I've got a 19-year-old, so he's legal. And then I've got a 16-year-old, but I don't really want them to know my business until it's time for them to know my business.
Correct.
But I want them to know they're taken care of and that those steps will be taken. And then I want them to know exactly what they don't need to speculate, right? I only put that on them to figure out, like, did they make the right decision? So I think that's particularly important. I think for older generations too, knowing they've got control of that, that they can say, okay, should this happen to me, then this, we can take that. But I think it's getting financial advisors. So Chris, what's your take on that from a financial advisor standpoint of having those conversations with the clients, getting more people to talk this through?
Well, I think, I'm on the advisory side from the standpoint of helping people implement, that risk protection, insurance, and some investments. The key to this is taking away the money. I walk my clients through, you died yesterday, what happens next? And, they sit there and they cross their eyes, are like, well, I don't know what happens. They call you. And I said, no, they don't call me. I go, I can help point directions, but they don't call me. I go, there needs to be clear instructions on what to do and how to do it. Now, I may have everything somewhat organized, but they still need to know what to do and how to do it. And I think as advisors, we get them to that point and they have the potential to be financially secure if it's done correctly. And so what I'm hearing from Martha and Shella is they have the tool to help execute these things.
Good point.
Plus, what I'm hearing their tool also does is helps, there are no U-Hauls behind hearses, so we can't take it with us, right? And so because
I have never heard that. That's a great way to put that.
Because we can't take it with us, right? What we can do three things, right? We can give it to the IRS and they will happily take it and say, yes, God bless, right? We can give it to the people we love and we care about, right? Or we can give it to charity, or we can destroy it. And let's say we don't destroy it, it's really the three options that are there. And for all practical purposes, I understand we're all patriotic people, but if we can give the least amount to the IRS or to the state, I would think that we would want to do that if we have a choice. So I give them that process. Now, this tool could help us make that succinct, right? Pushing them to the point of, okay, here's what we're going to do first. Here's what we're going to do second. Here's what we're going to do third. And then, like you said, those stop gaps, those tools that allow for them to say, okay, I know where everything, like being able, technology is really in the financial services industry lacking, right? If you're on the investment side, their technology is fantastic on the investment side. On the insurance side, their technology is good on the insurance side. The collaboration of them both is, we're in 1950, still using DOS in some companies, right? I know I have, Martha and Shella are on the call, and they, from a tech perspective, Martha and Shella, listen, there's still DOS prompt being used on insurance and investment companies because, again, because of the privacy stuff, nobody wants to share data. And really, the platform you're saying is the ability to share the data and get away from like these
silos, complete silos. Yeah.
So I just think what a great tool. How do people find the two of you? Suzanne, what are we doing well, I'll ask them. How do we find you, and how do we find this tool?
Sure. You can find us at getprism.com. GETPRISM.
Writing it down. Look, get Prism. I'm getting Prism. Hey, I'm telling you, I'm getting Prism.
So that's GETPRISMM.com. You can find us at GetPrism on Instagram and on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn under Martha Underwood.
Yeah, and I think the other part, not to plug your own product, but it's at such a price point that you've made it a no-brainer price point. And that's a big difference I see in what you're bringing to the market. And you've set it up so you can get it as an individual, like I'm going to sign up. And now I'm wondering, Chris, I wonder how many of our financial advisors have all their stuff buttoned up too themselves. But you can get it as an individual, but also as a financial advisor, if you want to get that and then give it out to your own clients, right? As part of your practice management, you've set up that model as well.
Yeah, there's an enterprise model for the financial advisors. Like that was one of the milestones. We just signed one on. So it's one of the products that they sign on a client. They automatically get a Prism account. You just license it per year. And then the direct to consumer, if you want to set up an individual account, it's $99 per year or $9 per month.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. So now we know, A, how to get a hold of you. 2, we know how to get the product. 3, you're a part of NAIFA, so we're gonna see a lot of the two of you.
Yes.
I understand. Like, so I'm not a person. My mother says closed mouths don't get fed.
That's right.
So I'm going to ask a couple times for the two of you, and sometimes independently. And the reason why is because your story, we want to hear the story, right? And again, you guys came from 2 different places. Yes, you started at the same place, but kind of went 2 different directions. You come back together, and now you're able to create this dynamic product for our industry, not just for our industry, but for the continuity of financial services that sits on the alignment with that wealth building strategy, keeping it going for future generations and kind of bridging the gap on the education thing. What a phenomenal thing. I'm going to go to the speed round. Suzanne, do you have anything else before I get into the speed round?
Other than we hope that both Martha and Shella will join us, Chris, in May 22nd at our DEI symposium and hopefully come to congressional conference with us. So
we will be there. Yes, we will be there. We'll be there.
That would be great. Look forward to meeting the two of you in person. And if our NAIFA fellowship, if you're coming to congressional conference, these 2 superstars will be there. And I'm sure you'll be talking Prism, and we'll be there helping promote them and talk about who they are and the impact they're having in the industry. So, ladies, the speed round. The speed round is just simply an opportunity for us to kind of get to know you as a person, just kind of fun, quirky stuff. And again, the rule of thumb is whatever comes first to mind, you have to answer that. It's good, bad, or indifferent. It is what it is. Some of it's funny. Some of it's kind of like, if you don't know anything, I'll just go to the next question and it'll be pretty quick. Okay.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right, cool. All right. So the speed round first is, who's your favorite actor?
Denzel Washington.
Not that I have a favorite per se. I have so many. Al Pacino.
Okay, Al Pacino. Okay, your favorite book?
Career Warfare.
The E-Myth.
E-Myth's a good one too. Okay, so if you could go back in history and have breakfast or lunch with a famous person, who would it be?
Zora Neale Hurston.
Oh, good.
I love her writing.
Me too.
I'm a little spiritual. I'm gonna say Jesus.
Oh,
okay.
Oh wow, she just went for like full out.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Well, if you're gonna go for broke, you might as well go broke.
I got questions. Jesus.
So, favorite thing, favorite food, all-time favorite food.
Haitian rice and peas.
Took mine because I was gonna say rice, but second would be pasta.
Rice and pasta. All right, and then the last thing is, if you could give your 18-year-old self advice, what would you say to yourself?
Take all the risk, Martha. Take all the risk. Because it turns out wonderful. Take the risk. Do it.
There are no shortcuts.
There are no shortcuts. All right, ladies, thank you so much. Suzanne, do you have anything before I give them the final, well, I say the final word, but I give them the mic for a second? Do you have anything else?
The only other thing I'd say is we're going to do profiles on both of these wonderful people. You'll see them coming up in our AT blog in a couple of weeks, and we look forward to just doing more. Welcome to the family.
Thank you.
Miss Martha and Shella, do you have any parting words before I close us out?
Sure. Thank you for having us on. We're excited about this platform and how many lives it will help. So go to getprism.com and you can find us and connect with us on LinkedIn.
I'll echo that and say we're so excited to be joining NAIFA and being a part of your family, and can't wait to see you guys in DC.
So you want to see them in DC, ladies and gents, I'll wrap us up. So thanks for tuning in to Advisors Today, NAIFA's podcast, where we uplift and promote your personal practice, but ultimately help you develop into well-rounded individuals for your life and your future. Thank you all. And again, go out and celebrate Black History Month. Take a moment to appreciate and understand the differences between the cultures, and we could go out and make sure we make tomorrow a better place. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for joining us for NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast series. Make sure to subscribe to get future episodes. And if you're interested in coming on the show, let us know.